Okay, here we go. We are rocking and we are rolling. Wait, no, are we? There, we'll make it work. All right, cool. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Yeah, no problem.
How are you both doing today?
Good.
Good.
So, because whenever I have two people on the, like, normally I'll just like say the person's name, but then nobody's gonna know whose voice is who.
Sure.
So, I'm gonna let you each introduce yourselves so that way the listeners can put a name to the voice.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Who wants Ashley? No.
Yeah, I should go first.
My name is Ashley Markum, and this is my son Ayden over here.
Okay. I'm Laura Callaway, and this is my son Raylan.
All right, so we have Ashley and Ayden, Laura and Rayden.
Raylan.
Raylan. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Raylan. It rhymes though.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
How are you? So I already asked you that. You guys are doing great.
Mhm.
So for the listeners, just some background. I first met. Were you at the expo?
I was not.
You were not at the expo.
No.
I didn't think so, right? So I met you actually at the Cannabis Expo recently held in
Yes.
St. Louis. You were there representing both Ayden's Alliance and Springfield NORML,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
All right, cool. So that's the foreground or preface, background. I don't
Yes.
know. And then Laura.
I met Ashley. How long ago? Maybe 2 years now.
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3
yeah.
years.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Met her because of our sons
Yeah.
and their special needs.
Yeah,
Right.
we met through one of their common doctors that they have. So
Okay. And then you guys are just like doing the work together.
yeah, we realized we had like almost everything in common.
A lot in common.
Yeah.
Bunch of kids and our boys and stuff. So whenever I decided to do the Ayden's Alliance project,
Uh-huh.
she was one of the first people that I said, "Hey, you want to help me do this?" So
Yeah. You guys just teamed up.
Yeah.
How many kids do you guys have? How big is the family?
so I have 6.
Okay.
I have 4.
Okay. So 10 between the two
Right.
of
There's
you.
a
Yep.
bunch of us.
Yep.
Right. I get the feeling that you guys are like around each other a
We
lot.
do. Well,
Yeah.
we homeschool too, so
Yeah.
that's another.
Yeah.
Okay, really?
Yes.
What's the challenges with that?
Well, with homeschooling and having Ayden, it definitely for my family gives us the flexibility. If we need to take off for a
Right.
doctor's appointment or a surgery, and I'm stuck in the hospital with him for a couple days, that gives us the flexibility to kind of make our own schedule and
Yeah.
make up those days, and to work other times. So
Yeah. I imagine that flexibility is key, right?
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, just to
Yes.
be able to, like, if something comes up, to be able to react to it.
Well, and also, with the germs that are, that go around at school. So both
Yes.
of the boys get homebound services, meaning that the therapists come to the house to do their therapy.
Okay.
So we don't even have to take them into the school and expose them to the germs.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, the germs at school, that's a real issue. I try to.
Can I go answer the door?
Yeah,
real
go
quick?
ahead and
Okay.
answer the door. Yeah, we'll keep it going. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So, Laura,
Yeah, thanks.
I know you're a little bit nervous.
I am. This isn't my first, so.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's all good. With Raylan, what are like tell me some of the beginning of his story. We'll take this time since I only have one here. Like take me back to like the beginning. Like tell me his story.
Okay, so it's called alobar holoprosencephaly.
Okay.
So what that means is when he was developing in utero, his brain did not divide into 2 hemispheres. Like
Okay.
we have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. His did not develop to that separation like that.
Okay.
So he was diagnosed at 20 weeks in utero. I was told that he would never make it to birth if he did a few hours. He wouldn't be able to breathe or eat or any of that stuff.
Really?
He'll be 7 in May.
So how did they test that? And you like
It was an ultrasound.
an ultrasound,
Right.
and then they can see that development of the
There
brain.
there was nothing really. There was a lot of extra fluid, I guess, in his brain.
Okay.
Or I guess in his skull, so there was not much tissue there. So that's how they diagnosed
Okay.
that.
So they told you this like as you're pregnant. How far along were you in
20 weeks.
your 20 weeks?
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, like I mean, what was it like getting that news?
No, it was devastating. It was honestly the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
And then have to continue to be pregnant and not knowing was tough.
Right. Yeah, I have 2 kids. My son he's 10 and my daughter's 8. And she's diagnosed like on the autism spectrum. She's not like very like severe. Like I know quite a few cases to where it can be so severe where you're not able to speak or really ever like care for yourself. She's pretty high functioning, But I can just remember like when she was pregnant, like when my ex-wife was pregnant with both the kids, like you're getting the test and different things, and like you're just like kind of sitting on pins and needles, like wait to hear back what are those
Right.
results?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So Ashley, with Ayden, did you was it kind of like similar circumstances as far as like when you found out,
Yeah.
or like
So Aiden was born 14 weeks early. So
okay,
he was 2 pounds 10 ounces when he was born. All of the other kids, they were late, and we basically had to pull him out. But
mm,
he was ready to be born,
yeah,
when he shouldn't have. So he spent almost 100 days in the hospital right after he was born.
okay,
And so most of his issues stem from being born too soon.
yeah,
There's just a lot of brain damage that is generally sustained whenever they're born so tiny like
right,
that. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, man, so you spent a lot of time in the NICU.
yeah.
Yeah, long nights.
Oh, yeah. And at that time, we lived 100 miles away. So we were driving back and forth. An average of like 500 or 600 miles a week is what we would drive.
Oh
And we would
wow.
stay at the Ronald McDonald House. And, we had 4 other children at that time.
Yeah.
So,
So was that I guess just for my own like just trying to get bearings. So was the hospital in St. Louis? Is that where that was, or
no, it
where
was
was the hospital?
Springfield.
Springfield.
Yeah,
So
we lived in West Plains at the time.
West
So,
Plains,
yeah, so it was about 100 miles.
100-mile drive.
Hmm.
Is that one way?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Man, you just gotta do what you gotta do though, right?
Yep.
What like so during that time, did you have like any like prior knowledge to like any like anything as far as like this I don't know how I want to word this. I feel like it's really clunky
No.
wording, right? Like
Well,
were you like aware of
no,
kids like
right. No,
like
thankfully, our 4 children before Aiden were relatively healthy.
mhm.
We got to take them home from the hospital, and
Uh-huh.
when I got to go home, and so my husband's a nurse, so
Mhm.
thankfully we did have a little bit of
That has to help.
he had some knowledge of
Yeah.
a little bit of what was going on, but it's still very different in the NICU than just general nursing, and
Yeah.
so. I'm thankful that he wasn't our first, because I think that would have been a lot more scarier.
A little bit more overwhelming for
Yeah,
the first one.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, all
So
new.
so then a lot of what he's experiencing is just a like was there just a lack of, you said he was born too early, right?
Hmm.
So there was just like a lack of like development of the brain due to
Yeah.
like, was it because of oxygen or like vital nutrients, or
Right.
like do we know
Well,
like what was it?
when babies are born too early like
Uh-huh.
that, just being born,
Mm-hmm.
is very traumatic for them.
Right.
So whether they're born, vaginally or C-section,
Mm-hmm.
it's still just very traumatic on their brain.
Right.
They're not developed enough to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, my water broke about 4 to 6 weeks before he was even born.
Oh.
And so he had a lot of, and still does have, lung issues because, just of that low fluid in there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's just so much development that like
Mhm.
happens in the womb.
yeah.
And so as a result, he suffered from seizures.
Yeah. So he, just the brain damage that he sustained, he's diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which affects his motor skills and his muscles and stuff. He's very tight. And then the epilepsy started about the same time
Okay.
as the CP diagnosis. And so,
So whenever when you got the diagnosis and then like the epilepsy started, like what were your options? Like what were you told were your options at
sure.
that time?
So we were told that he was diagnosed with what's called infantile spasms, and we were told that they were very subtle seizures, but they were catastrophic in the effects to his brain. So we needed to be quick in starting him on medication, and we needed to, maybe start hard medication, and all of the frontline things that we were
Yeah.
supposed to do, we did. And we just went through medication after medication, and none of them worked. None of them helped the seizures, and they only made other things worse, like,
Right.
just muscle issues, sleep, eating, those kinds of things. So, he has a feeding tube now because of one of the medications.
Really?
He stopped eating and then basically his muscles forgot how to swallow.
Like they atrophied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have such a hard time with like our current like pharmacological like based model,
hmm
like in the healthcare system, right? Because a lot of times like they're just treating symptoms,
hmm
or I have like terminology is very important to me. So like they have like they say like side effects, and like with me, whenever I look at like medications, like they're all just effects, and some of these are more common than others, but they're all just an effect of the medicine, and then
hmm
they just start like packing on one pill over the next pill because you have to take this pill because of
right,
that pill,
Right.
you know what I mean? Or this medicine to help counter that one. And it's
right,
like, man, it's just it can just be this cascade of issues
yeah,
that can come from
yeah.
that. Was that kind of your experience as well? So when Raylan was born, were you just given like a whole bunch of like, these are the medications to
Well,
take?
they
Actually, kind of the
it
opposite.
Was
was.
it?
They had no hope for my
So
son.
they didn't even give
They
him a
stuck
chance to
us in the
live.
very last corner in the room and gave us time for him to pass. In fact,
Yeah.
we had one doctor when I asked if there's something we can do to help him because I thought he had when he was born, since he had all the extra fluid in his head, he had a gigantic head. I mean, his head was huge.
Yeah.
So hydrocephalus. And I thought, is there something we can do to help him? He's alive. What can we do? And the doctor told me just to let nature take its course.
Really?
Yeah. So we had an awesome nurse who was in there with him and who heard the doctor say this. And she said, what do you want to do? And my husband said, he's here alive. We need to fight for him. If he's
Yeah.
fighting, we need to fight for him. So this nurse called another doctor and a neurosurgeon. And he came to the hospital and he picked up Raylan and cuddled him and called him his little peanut and said, he's okay. He said, he may not have a long life. He said, but he's alive now. He said, I'd say probably 18 months, 2 years. But we can take care of this. And he put a shunt in his head to relieve the pressure of the fluid off his brain.
Okay.
And he's, like I said, he's now 7 years old.
Yeah.
I think he was probably about 2 years old before he actually got help with therapy and like actually taking care of him.
Really, just because they just weren't giving him
Yeah.
like any chance of life.
Yeah, it was just kind of gloom and doom and just let's see what happens type stuff.
Yeah, man. You got to think that's got to be like hard news to give somebody. But I wonder if there's some of these doctors just because like it's a job, right? Like
Right,
you
get jaded, I don't
see it
know.
so much. It's just like you almost just like have to become numb so that way you can continue to do the job.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
because it almost sounds like in that experience of yours that they were just like very matter of fact,
They
like,
were.
hey, like these are your options.
Right, and that we're still pretty, we still see that same neurosurgeon. He's just amazed how well he's doing and
Yeah.
just been very helpful with getting things started to take care of him.
Just completely overcome like all the odds.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you say the hospice nurse was on your front porch when
Yeah,
they got home
when
from
they
the
sent us home from the
hospital?
hospice was sitting there waiting for us.
Really?
Yeah, and we eventually fired hospice. Like I said, he's doing real. I mean, we call him the healthiest sick kid because he's got a lot of issues, but he's doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered. So in that moment, like, I mean, they're trying to give you hospice. I mean, did you almost want to like buy into that? Like,
Yeah, because at
I
the
mean,
time,
that's what the professionals are telling you,
Right.
right?
Right. You want to trust the doctors.
It's
You're
a
like, well,
learning
you know
period.
more about this than I
Right.
do, so
Right.
of course, this is what we got to do.
It's
Yeah.
always, and I'm sure you're the same. It's always been a fight, and it's this constant fight, like fighting for your child, the medicines and therapies and stuff he needs. And so it's always been and it took me a process to become that person because, like you said, you trust the doctors that they know what they're doing, and
Right. I mean, that's what we've been taught our whole life.
Right,
I
and-
mean, that's what they go to school for. Like, they're the professional.
and not dogging the doctors because they also have been
No,
great
yes,
help. But
yeah.
it's just when you take that time to start researching and learning and saying, hey, so
Yeah. Especially in today's time, right? Because you can learn really anything that you want to learn. Like, the
Google.
information is
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is
yeah.
out there. Like, that's one of the reasons why, like, I love this podcast platform so much because I've learned a ton of things through, like, all of the real-time information, like, in the health and wellness space is essentially being released, like, through podcasts and, like, just through books. Because these are the people, like, actually, like, doing the research and, like, they're on the front line. And, like, this research, it can take, I think, like 20 to 30 years to actually like filter its way into like formal education. So the doctors, they're learning stuff that's like 2-3 decades old. It really blows my mind. But like the amount of information that's real time that you can learn is vast. So you can learn so much. And these doctors, they just don't have the time to learn it all.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just people. But yeah,
Well, and when you realize too that you are supposed to be in charge of your health and your children too. I
Right.
mean,
yeah,
that's your job, it is your job to educate yourself, in
right.
my opinion.
And I feel like I've
anyway.
learned a lot from other moms who have
Yeah.
gone in the
Oh,
same situation. I feel
definitely.
like we
Yeah.
can be able to bounce things off
Yeah.
each other, and that's how
Yeah.
I've learned a lot, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah, I call her all the time. Have you guys tried this?
Right?
Just bouncing
So,
off each other.
yeah.
What's the community like? I mean, is it a big community, or I mean,
You know,
and that's real.
not
That's a relative term too.
Yeah, I feel like online has been really
Yes,
great
that's been the most
for
helpful.
families like us. Like
Yes.
social media,
Mhm.
Facebook especially. There's different groups that we can be a part of, and you can get advice from people all around the world. And insurance is one thing that's pretty hard for families like ours because I think it's a common misconception. A lot of people think, oh, well, you have a special needs or a medical kid, then you just, you get all these services. You get nursing, you get everything covered, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
We have to rely on other families for food, for diapers, for, things that insurance just won't cover or doctors won't,
Right.
write prescriptions for. So,
Yeah, all the little expenses.
yeah.
I'm sure there's just a ton of them that people just don't ever think
Yeah.
about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just daily living.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what kind of things, like what kind of services, like do I imagine it's separate. Like I don't want to like lump them in together,
Sure.
right? So I mean, I imagine it's like separate services, right? So like, what kind of services are being
Same.
like given, or like what is needed?
So, therapy. So they get physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and vision therapy.
Okay.
And so those therapists, for both of them, since they're both homebound, they come to the house and do those therapy services.
Yeah. So a lot of people in and out. Are you ever worried? I know we were kind of talking a little bit about the germs. Is that ever a concern, like people coming in and
Yeah.
out?
Yes, I've become a germphobe ever since he's been born. I've become because when they get sick, they're not able to fight it like you and I can fight
Yeah.
sickness, and they always end up in the PICU, it seems like, or the
Yeah.
hospital.
So the therapists know we're pretty picky about that.
They
So
do.
they'll always let us know, hey, my kid's been sick, or hey, I was around.
Yeah. Is there any way like you can like control like micro exposures for them, for like, you know what I mean? Because
For
it's like-
building their immune system.
yeah, to like
type
build their
thing.
immune system,
Yeah.
because like what we've learned, right, like as growing up, like being in the dirt and like
Yes.
being outside, like those
Yeah.
things, like they help our
Yeah.
microbiome, and like that's what we need to grow a strong, immune system.
Yeah.
Obviously, like when you have like a compromised immune system, you have to be careful how you
Mhm.
do that, right? But or, like, do you guys like do anything like that, or like you ever like rub
I feel
dirt
like-
on their feet or anything like that, or just anything like that? You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like we try to take them outside and things like that
They
during
like
the
to be
summer. They do
outside.
love to be outside. Raylan especially, he gets overheated really easily.
Yeah.
And so that can trigger things.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it is just
Right.
trying to balance what to do. And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just a balancing act. I just know that I know growing up, like my mom, she didn't do it so much whenever I was a kid, but like there's some space between me and like I have two younger brothers I grew up with, and like my youngest one is probably like 12 years younger than me, and by that time my mom went like full blown germaphobe. Like there,
it's a
Yeah.
progression.
It is.
it doesn't happen overnight,
No.
but she got there.
Yes.
So like there's hand sanitizer and
Right.
like everywhere, and like you always have to like put it on your hands and
Yes.
stuff like that. But I'm just
Yeah.
like, I was like, Mom, you need like a little bit of germs in your life, because
Yeah.
like if you just kill them all, then like you're just like you're so sterile that you end up getting more sick because there's like
Yeah.
no exposure.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, like, so is that
Yeah.
you're on that end of the
Oh, yeah,
spectrum? Is that where you're
I
at?
may be like way up there, don't you think?
You get along great with my mom.
Yes, we became friends.
when we're out, she pulls her sleeve down like this to cover her
Okay.
hand and
Oh,
open the door.
Yeah.
I do. Don't tell her my crazy secrets.
It's okay. It's okay. As soon as I walk
But
into
she lets me open the door. She stands back
Yeah, I
and she'd
do.
open it for her. So
That's so funny. Yeah, the moment I walk into my mom's house, she makes me go wash my hands. It's the first
Yep.
thing she says. She
That's
takes
funny.
shoes off and go wash
Yep.
her hands.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the first thing. But I mean, it could be worse.
right?
It could totally be worse. So that they put them both, or I guess Raylan not so much on the medications, right? But they put Ayden on medications.
Yes.
Did medications come into play at all for him? You said
Um,
later on some things kind of changed,
yeah, our
and
biggest struggle, we have the cerebral palsy as well. So our biggest struggle is the really tight muscles.
okay,
So that's always been trying to find something with him, just not sedating him, but helping those muscles to be relaxed.
something to relax that central nervous system.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where we start out with medications with him.
Okay. Now, when did like cannabis come into the mix? I mean,
Sure.
was it just like straight CBD, or like walk me through that process for you guys?
So, shortly after Aiden's second birthday is when we first started trying CBD. And so, before that, we tried all of those medications. And,
Mm-hmm.
the next step was either brain surgery or start a medication that we had to sign a waiver saying that if Aiden ended up passing away after starting that medication, that we couldn't sue the pharmaceutical company.
Was it just like a test medication? You know what I mean? Just kind of like in the
Well, I don't know. I think it was just such a harsh, and he was so small. A
yeah,
lot of the medications aren't really approved for pediatric use. And,
right.
but you run out of options.
Yeah,
And so after that, we were just like, no more,
yeah.
no more. And so we started just researching natural things.
Just
And
natural remedies.
yeah, and came across the CBD, and that's kind of how we got started. My mom seen a documentary on it. And so thankfully his doctor was, on board with that. I was open with him about it because I didn't know anything about CBD. I didn't know anything about cannabis, or, I hadn't really been around anybody that smoked it or anything like that.
Yeah.
So thankfully his doctor was on board with it. And so he signed for Aiden to get a hemp card because at that time Missouri only had the hemp program.
Hmm.
And they had a couple of dispensaries in
Can
St.
you
Louis.
explain that program?
So it's a pretty frustrating program. You have to the only
We're good.
qualifying condition is intractable epilepsy, and you had to have tried at least 3 medications before that.
Okay.
And then the doctor signs for signs off on for you to get a hemp card, and then that allows you to purchase CBD oil from the 2 dispensaries that the state approved in St. Louis.
And what year was this?
So for Aiden, it was 2015.
2015.
I think they had just passed it the year before. 'Cause
Okay.
he was the 5th person in Missouri to get a
Okay.
card.
Because now, I mean, like CBD is just so like
Yeah.
readily available,
Yeah.
right? So, but at this time, I mean, it was still so misunderstood, and at least in Missouri, it was still so
Yes.
restricted, controlled. Like you had to go through a very like special program.
Yeah, like you said, it was still very misunderstood, and just Missouri having that extra legislation just makes it even more of a little bit of a gray area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and this is like a very like conservative state. Like we're usually
Sure.
one of the last to, like change or do anything,
Mhm.
and there's just been a lot of propaganda like surrounding the plant like over the years, and a
Yeah.
lot of misinformation, unfortunately. Um, so you had to go to St. Louis to get the CBD, or were you able to like get it mailed to you, or
Now they can mail it, but for a while you had to drive to get it.
okay,
So whenever we first tried the CBD, he would have almost 100 small seizures a day, and it went from that to maybe a handful.
oh wow,
And not only that, just cognition we feel like has improved.
mm-hmm.
Just making eye contact and smiling, and
Yeah.
he said "mom" one time.
Oh wow,
So
yeah, that's huge.
yeah, so that kind of is what got us started down this path, and we're like,
Right.
well, if this works for if this helps his seizures, what else, And so
Yeah.
just started researching more and got involved with the campaign. And
Yeah. So over 100 seizures a day.
Mhm.
Like, so what are those seizures like? Like, how long in duration? Or, I mean, I know you
Yeah,
said,
so they were pretty subtle, just a few seconds, and they would cluster.
yeah,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't
And
know what to look for, you
you
might
wouldn't
not
know
have
what was
known. Yeah.
happening, right? And he's just having, so like, is it like his whole body's tensing up, or,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So for Raylan, when did CBD come in the picture for him?
So we were on several medications. I was trying to look for more natural type ways because, like I said, the medicines were sedating him.
Yeah.
And I hated for him to be just zonked out the time. I wanted him to be able to enjoy life
Yeah,
still.
you're just kind of like in this zombie state.
Right.
Like you're just existing.
Exactly. So I'd been talking to our neurologist and asking him questions and said, what do you think about this? And that's when he gave me Ashley's number. And so I called her and asked her several questions. And that's kind of how we
Okay.
got started.
Okay.
We don't struggle with the seizures like Ayden does. Ours, like I said, mostly is just the tight.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the tight muscles.
Yeah.
Just trying to get his body to relax.
Just
because
relax and
when he gets
loosen.
these tight muscles, he gets to what's called storming, and his whole body just turns red and flush, and he shakes and sweaty, and
Yeah.
there's just no bringing him down from.
Is it kind of like a snowball effect?
It is.
It just cascades.
Right, and there's just no bringing him down from those other than just holding him tight. And
Yeah. How long? So how long does that last, or like, are those like how frequent is that?
I don't know. And it
So many things I feel like can
Right.
trigger that. The weather, the moon phase, you know,
Yes.
the pressure.
it gets too hot.
gets too hot, you know, and just the recovery from it can take take
It's
too.
just very sensitive.
And all we can do is just hold him. But, like, we have to kind of bend his body up so he can't get to that real tight flexion. Or
Yeah.
extension, extension, and just kind of hold him up in a ball is about the only way we can get him to
Right.
relax from that.
Really? Yeah, just to keep everything like all his muscles kind of short, so that way they're not. Yeah. So then the CBD has kind of helped with
It
that.
has, and like she said too, the cognitive too. I feel like it's a big. He seems more alert and more like he does more in therapy and
Yeah.
wants to do things, and I feel like that's a big thing for us, other than just
Yeah.
being zoinked all the time and
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
just in a good mood.
Yes.
Just enjoyable.
right.
Because it's hard enough.
It is hard.
When they're in a bad mood, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like how long after like introducing CBD did you see these effects?
Oh goodness, it's been such a while.
Yeah, like do you
I
recall?
feel like
mean,
we
it's been
seen them within the first week. I mean, I feel like
Pretty
it was pretty
quickly.
quick.
Yeah.
For us anyway.
Yeah, I would say a couple weeks. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I'm not surprised by that. I feel like that's a pretty common, like we have like the endocannabinoid system, right? Like our body is designed for these compounds, and I mean, and like CBD, it's an adaptogen, right? So the body's always trying to reach homeostasis, and this just helps us do that.
Right. And I think our bodies are so deficient in it.
Oh,
you
yes.
know, because used to the cows ate the hemp, you know,
Yeah.
and so it was in our meat, it was in our milk, it was in.
Yeah.
So I feel like our bodies are just so deficient in it when it gets fed that, you know.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times you see quick changes and then it might kind of taper off and you know you need to switch it up. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's what we're looking forward to at the end of the year, to be able to switch it up, you know, get some different strains and
Yeah,
ratios.
just to
and-
have that
yeah.
option,
Yeah.
right? Are you guys planning to cultivate? Are you gonna grow it all for yourself? Or you gonna
I don't
maybe
know
like
that I don't know that we've decided yet if we can add that to our plate. But
It's a lot to do.
there are caregivers.
Right, as I said,
that
you're
are
gonna get a
be-
caregiver. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's always a good option as well.
Yeah, so we know what's in their medicine, and we
Correct.
know, you know, where
Yeah.
it's coming from, and
I
you
think
know.
that's like the best thing about the Missouri plan is that they really did give the power like to the people, so that way patients don't have to rely on like an outside source for their medicine, because just like with any expense, like it can really add up if you're constantly having to buy it, but at least having like the option to grow it yourself or get something worked out with a
Yes.
caregiver, I think that's just so powerful.
Yes,
Well, that way we know where it's coming. It's safer that way.
safer, and
100%.
especially for them. I mean, they're not going to be smoking it. You know, we have to make oil out of it,
Right.
and it takes a lot more product to make that oil.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
it's-
it takes-
If, you know, we would have to go buy that from a dispensary. It'd be a lot more expensive.
Yeah, like constantly, like on a monthly basis, just constantly have to buy that and make it.
Yep.
That would really add up. Yeah, good thing times have changed. Have you guys experienced, or have you guys used anything like topical CBDs or anything like that? Has any experience with those?
We have, and you know, they help a little bit. In my opinion, you know, I feel like they need more than CBD.
Yeah.
You know, we've learned that THC is not a bad thing,
Right.
and especially for these guys, if it gives them a better quality of life, you know, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. I mean, like I
Why
said,
not?
our system
Yeah.
is designed for it.
Yeah.
It's so weird how there's just like some humans, like they just want to control other people's consciousness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, there's definitely, the thought behind like, all use is medical use, right?
Sure.
Because, if you're just trying to like relax, and then some people will turn to like, you can go meditate for that, or you can go get a drink of alcohol for that, or you can go eat like a bucket of ice cream for that. Like, there's so many different things that you can do to like kind of unwind at the end of the
Yeah.
day and like relax. But it's
Yeah.
just like for some reason it's like these ways are okay, but like this
Mhm.
way isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like what we're learning that is when you do pair CBD with some THC, like it doesn't have to be very much. It can be
Right.
very low grade THC, but like you pair that, it enhances the effects
Right.
of the CBD, and that's when
Right.
you're getting the best benefits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, I just asked about the topical because I use this company. It's called Jumbo Superfoods. They're based in California, but they have this topical, and I love their products because so they're actually voted like the world's healthiest edibles, like back in the by
Oh,
High Times, like when they
cool.
first came out. Yeah, they're great. They use all organic products, very few ingredients, and I met them at this conference called Paleo FX in Austin, Texas last year, which is kind of like paleo keto. It's like a health and wellness
Mhm.
conference, and I did a jujitsu tournament down there, and like the next day, like it's really hard on your joints, like just certain activities, and
Mhm.
my hands get really stiff, and I used this cream from them, and it went from like not being able to like even move my hands to like easily being able to
Mhm.
like just move my hands.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is amazing,
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's by far one of my favorite products. And
Yeah.
I know it's kind of like a low barrier to entry for most people to get into CBD, like topically, because
Yeah.
like they're not ingesting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They feel like it's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. We can rub that on. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and that's
Especially for a lot of older people too.
exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the weird things, right? Because some people will be so weird about like what they put in their mouth. And even then, like not so much, right? They'll go put some junk food in their mouth,
Right.
but they won't go put like
Right.
they'll have to research the health food that
Right.
you just gave
Yes.
them.
Yes. Or essential oils.
Yes.
Or yeah,
I
like
don't know if I
that's
can use
that
those.
foofery. Like
Yeah.
I don't need that, right? But they'll put anything on their skin,
Yeah.
and that you have to be just as careful what you put
Right,
on your
very
skin.
absorbent.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like that is
Yeah.
an organ.
Yep.
But yeah, I found like the creams have been like a low
Yeah.
barrier of entry for some people.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for Raylan, it's kind of the same, like the same ratio, like a little bit, like some THC works like best for him as well.
We've really not tried the THC. We did
No.
mostly
We
just the
can't.
CBD.
Yeah.
he's
Because
not,
Yeah.
we can only have CBD
yeah, so we've
right
not
now.
tried it.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know if you guys have like have been able to like, I don't know, like it's such a weird place that we're in
Right.
to where
It's a
like
very
you don't
gray
want to do
area.
anything to like get in trouble,
Yeah.
right?
No.
But
Yeah, it's a very gray
sometimes I
area.
mean there's certain like I feel like there's certain markets where it's legal, right? So I didn't know if like I know a lot of families like just like went out to visit to Colorado and then they just never came
Sure.
back, right?
Yeah.
Because they just saw what was
Yeah.
available out there and like how the help that they could get. So I didn't know if like maybe you
We
guys
have
were able
not,
to like
no.
experience like other markets and
Right.
like if you're exploring for best options, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very gray area.
Yeah.
I mean,
Was
you
it a
know.
tough choice to like stay in Missouri, like knowing some of the other markets were out there?
For us, it was, my husband's a nurse, so thankfully,
Yeah.
he can get a job
Pretty much anywhere.
Pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
And we had thought about moving several times, and then every time we thought that we would, Ayden would, get a little bit better, and then we're like, well, okay, we're gonna stay and fight because
Yeah.
so many families can't pick up and move.
Right.
And so, I just kind of felt like if I don't do it, who's gonna do it, And
Mhm.
so we just kind of stuck it out. But if it hadn't passed last November, we were gonna move. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, what do you do? Like, it's
Yeah.
almost like your hands are tied. You can
Yeah.
only kind of sit in like a
Yeah.
losing situation
Yeah.
for so long.
Yeah.
But now I saw, and I could be wrong on this. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I thought that I saw pretty much immediately after like medically it was passed that it was already like put on the docket for review, like this upcoming session to be reviewed for like recreational legalization. Are you aware of this? Did you see
I
that?
don't think anything's been introduced to my knowledge. I know
Okay.
several. I know several small groups are kind of hopeful for that, but I don't think that that's going to happen
Okay.
here. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I don't think Missouri's ready for that.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yes. I hadn't done a whole bunch of research. I know I saw like one article on it. It was talking about like basically it was going to be set up for recreation, like similar to DC, to where there's no recreational sales, but it's like recreationally like legal to like you can still like grow it. Like they're going to extend that to like where you can like you can cultivate it
Yeah.
and possess it and own it. And it wasn't going to be illegal. It's just you couldn't go actually like buy it recreationally.
gotcha.
So that's what I remembered, and I didn't like dig deep, so
Yeah.
I figured I would ask and see if maybe you knew.
I'm going to leave that to somebody else.
That's totally
I did my fight.
yeah, that's totally fair, right? So
but
yeah,
I mean, I do personally believe that adults should be able to choose whatever thing that they want to medicate with, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cannabis, whether it's, as long as you are not hurting somebody. That's my personal opinion.
yeah,
So, but I'm going to let somebody else get that passed.
yeah. It's a very complicated process to make change. I often wonder why it has to be so
I
complicated.
know.
I don't understand it, but as long as there are people out there with a good fight, you know what I mean. Like, so are you both involved with Springfield NORML?
Just me.
Just you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've kind of gone a little on the dormant side. We do quarterly meetings still, just because I've put so much of my focus into the Ayden's Alliance now.
Okay.
And because I don't feel like we're ready for recreational now, you know, when that comes back up, you know, maybe we'll get a little bit more active and,
Yeah. Yeah, when we got the
get
one
involved.
with medical, right? So at least like let's get that figured out.
yeah, let's get that, you know, smoothly sailing
Right.
before,
Yeah,
my
100%.
opinion anyway. So.
Right. So then most of the time it's just for, you know, focusing on obviously Ayden and then like Ayden's Alliance.
Yeah.
So take me back to that. Like how did that start? Like when did you decide to begin that journey?
Well, so the day after election, I was speaking with another couple that was pretty involved in getting medical cannabis here, and he had already started his cannabis consulting firm, Missouri Cannabis Consultants. And he started talking about a couple of nonprofit ideas that, you know, he wanted to maybe start one for veterans, or he was working with somebody to do something for veterans. And I said, you know, I always wanted to do that for the special needs families, but, you know, I was just kind of stuck. I didn't know, you know, how that process worked or anything like that. And so he said, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
Yeah, let's just do it.
Let's do it. And so his firm, Missouri Cannabis Consultants, has basically helped us financially start Ayden's Alliance. So,
Okay. So what's the process been like for that?
It's been kind of crazy but good.
Yeah.
You know,
Laura's over here smiling. You got some stories?
I'm the support.
So, you know, so they've been pretty helpful in that, and the expo was kind of like our debut, you know, to getting our feet wet. So we've just started small, like t-shirt fundraisers, that kind of thing, and getting those things kind of set. But yeah, I'm excited about it because I've wanted to do something for a while.
Yeah.
I don't want these families to fall through the cracks, you know.
Yeah.
Especially education-wise, you know, I want to be able to show these families how they can use this medicine for their children, and
Right.
and financially too, because, you know, things are so expensive already, you know, for our kids, and we're having to pay out of pocket for a lot of things. You know, I just don't want that to be another worry, especially if they were having to go to a dispensary, and
Right.
prices are going to be really high for a while. That's
Yeah.
just what it is in a new market. So, so I just wanted to do something to help them. And
Okay. Yeah, and you're still at the very beginning of the journey.
yeah.
Yeah. So how was the expo for you?
It was great.
Yeah.
I felt like we got a lot of great feedback, a lot of people that want to help, and So
Yeah, that was a really cool event.
yeah, it was
A
great.
lot of people there.
Hmm.
A lot of people there. Yeah, I think it's definitely important to like get that that education out there and like let people know like what options are available and to yeah, like I said, kind of going back to what we said a little bit earlier, like being able to grow or you have somebody to grow
Yes.
your own medicine for you,
Hmm.
is just so huge because taking 10 prescriptions for like to deal with one thing, so essentially sometimes what I
Right.
mean, it's like but you have this one natural option that
Right.
can help with all these different ailments.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And what a lot of parents, I've learned a lot from parents in other legal states, just getting advice from them on what's worked for their children. And, they're seeing that just, several different strains. And
Right.
when they make their oil, mixing those strains together,
Hmm.
it's not just one high CBD strain.
Right.
It's not a one thing
Right.
fixes all, and it's switching it up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's the education. I think that's the most exciting
Yeah.
part is learning
Yeah.
being able to get the education out there for
Yes.
others. And
Yes.
Yeah.
And
there is so much out there.
there is, and you see CBD signs everywhere now.
Yeah.
In the beginning we were so terrified, when we'd go to a new doctor, because it wasn't on his medication list at first because,
Right.
none of the doctors really knew how to handle it.
And the doctors don't even know about it.
They don't. And I remember going to one new specialist that Ayden had to see because of a liver injury because of one of the medications.
Hmm.
And they ended up having to go in and do a liver biopsy to make sure, we weren't looking at a transplant.
A lot of these medications are hard on the liver.
Yeah. And so, she asked, what all we were doing, what all medications. And my husband brought up the CBD oil and she's like, oh, what's that? And he goes, well, basically it's medical marijuana. I was like, don't say
Don't
that.
say that. That's not it. You would be careful with your words.
And that was 4 years ago. But now, I mean, everybody's taking CBD oil.
Yeah, a lot of people know about
there's
it now.
there's stuff in vape shops, and that's what, like Laura said, we got to educate people. I don't recommend you buying anything at a vape shop to give to your child,
Yeah.
just because it's probably not going to have labs that you can
Quality
see
and
what.
sourcing is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you don't know what's in it, if it's real or a chemical. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many.
Yeah.
Man, it's so vital. And that's just like with anything really. And that's the strange thing, right? So many people just trust what's coming out of a lab with these synthetic compounds.
I know.
You know what I mean? But like you take something natural and they're super weary. But it is
Yeah.
it's so important to know your sourcing.
Yeah.
A reputable company or source should be
Mhm.
sending all of their product to like
Mhm.
a third party lab to be
Yes.
tested, right? So that way
Yes.
you know like what's in there and there's no
Mhm.
like harmful additives or anything like that.
Right.
It's just so important.
Right. And that's why whenever we got Amendment 2 passed, or whenever they were writing it, that was something that was really important, just the testing for residual solvents and testing for
Yes.
pesticides and,
Yeah. Like really
that's
regulating the
really,
market.
making it safe for, especially these kids and the elderly that, have so many things going on
Yeah.
that they can't be getting sick off of.
Yeah. Like we need to make sure that we've been in this place to where like we're so far behind on the knowledge, like we
Mhm.
haven't done the research. And for a number of years in the medical community, like I really like to dive into the science. I'm a real nerd like
Mhm.
that. So for decades, all they did was study like white males. That was
Mhm.
it. And it's like, hey, like there's a whole bunch of people in the
Mhm.
world. Like they're not taking it into consideration like women or children. It's just like
Mhm.
just males. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well that doesn't like there's a lot of different people
Yeah.
here. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
work. Like you
Yeah.
need to like study these things and
Yeah.
understand how it works like with each individual person.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like or like obviously you can't study everybody, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we talked about the dosing with the medicine for them, right?
Mhm.
These medicines are meant for adults, but they're not letting you know like what's like how would you extrapolate what we did for an adult for a kid.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's important. But the beauty of the plant is that it's like it's not harmful.
Right. Right. You're not going to overdose on it.
Yeah, it's gentle.
You might take a good nap and be hungry when you wake up. But
Oh, the naps are the best. The naps are the best. Oh man. Yeah, man. Cannabis has just been like by far one of my favorite things to help me sleep.
Yeah.
By far. I just had a question for you, and then I lost
Lost
it.
it.
Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I lose them, but It happens. No worries. So since things have passed, like what kind of changes are we looking for? Like what's life gonna probably like change for you guys now that we have access to medicine for
Yeah,
you
well,
guys?
when we get these guys some more options, I feel like I'm hoping sleep is going to be
That would
better.
be awesome.
I would love
Yeah.
some more sleep.
Yes.
Just pain. They have so many days when they just are so uncomfortable and there's nothing you can do
Yeah.
because there's only so much medication you can give.
Yeah.
Ayden is still on one pharmaceutical for his muscle issues. Um, it helps some, but
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we're maxed out on some of the medicines, though.
I
Like they don't
do.
do anything.
I do. I think that their bodies have gotten so used to things. So I mean, we have backed down on that one, but um, it's the least harmful, medicine that he's been on by far. But
Yeah.
when they have those bad days, you
Desperate.
yeah, you get desperate and like I said, there's only so much you can do, and
Yeah.
he's like this now because he had 2 seizures this morning.
Yeah. You said you had some seizures
So,
like right before we got
yeah,
here.
so it either zonks him out like this or it makes him just so mad and he's so stiff and
Yeah. Just uncomfortable.
hmm
Yeah. So on the days like this where he's just like zonked out, like how long? I mean, does it take him out for like the day for the most part? And
sometimes.
it's kind of rainy and stuff and
Yeah,
cloudy, and
yeah.
like that makes
Sure.
everybody
Weather,
tired.
Sure.
yes, really
Yeah.
affects.
Yeah. So does the weather change? Like, does it affect how they
Major.
respond?
Yeah,
Yeah.
big
I think you
time.
guys said that earlier,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
if you think of just the pressure, what we feel like, kind of our heads sometimes,
Yeah.
and then you get Raylan that he's got the shunt and
Yeah.
and other issues. I
Probably
can't
really
imagine,
amplified.
yeah, what they feel like. So,
Yeah. So-
and Raylan, he's had. Sorry if I'm talking
No,
for
go
you.
for it. No, go. Yeah.
So part of the cerebral palsy, is just the extremities get really stiff,
hmm
and so for the legs, when that happens, their hips come out of socket.
Oh, okay.
And so Raylan has had to have both of his hips done. And, they break the leg, they stick a rod in there. I mean, it's huge surgery.
Invasive, yeah.
So like
Huge
total
surgery.
hip.
Yeah, it's like a total hip
Oh,
repair.
wow.
Yeah. Thankfully, Ayden hasn't had to have that done yet, but they did go in and basically clip his tendons, down on the inside of his legs to help that spasticity.
Yeah.
So it's pretty significant for these guys whenever they have pain or
Yeah.
the stiffness.
Yeah.
So,
Like deep in your bones and
Yeah.
your
We
joints.
just had it done, I think November, and
Yeah.
he still struggles with the pain at
Mhm.
nighttime, I think, in his
Yeah.
hip. I mean, it was
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
ugly surgery.
Yeah. Do you guys ever have you guys looked into anything like I'm just thinking like little things. I don't even know like how much these like
Mhm.
wouldn't even move the needle, but like blue light blockers and different things like that to like
mm-mm.
help with sleep. I mean,
I'm
it's
not-
good for everybody, right? Because like I'm not saying like they're looking at screens all the time or anything like that,
Sure.
but like we're getting all this like artificial light
Sure.
all the time, and that can really affect with like our cortisol levels, and it can affect like how we sleep. So like just our kind of our natural rhythm. So like it's kind of been shown, and I don't, like blue light blockers have like kind of been shown to like kind of like help people to sleep better because you're blocking all that blue light, which like keeps your brain awake.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like maybe like that's
worth
I'm just
trying.
I'm just thinking.
Anything is worth trying.
Yeah, I'm just always thinking of
Yeah.
things because like when my daughter was whenever we got the diagnosis, like she was on the autism spectrum, and then like I fought MMA for a number of years, so like kickboxing and boxing, like I got punched in the head a lot. So like I just became obsessed with the brain and like what can we do to help the brain? So like I'm always looking at all these different things, and like sleep is by far the number one thing, right?
Yeah.
So I mean I know that's why I know that you're probably you mentioned sleep is like what you're looking forward to the most, right? They can sleep, but the more restful sleep and the more quality sleep they get, I mean it's going to improve all areas of their life, right? I mean, it's
Correct.
going to be better during the day, right? And then if you can get them more regular on sleep, it just gets their body on this
Yeah.
cycle, right? So it's
Yeah.
just better for their health
Yeah,
all
I
the way
notice his
around.
muscles, and he just feels. I mean, he feels so much better when he can actually
he
nap
sleeps,
and sleeps
yeah.
at night, and like a whole different kid.
Yeah. I mean, that's when the body, repairs itself. That's when we actually learn. That's when our brain repairs itself. That's when that amyloid plaque gets cleared out, and like that whole process happens. So going back to CBD, like that, I learned like that helps with the brain, right?
It's a
Like,
neuroprotectant.
yeah, exactly. So we like what from what I've learned. So we have this. It's called BDNF. It's brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's the growth factor for our brain. And like, I know like when we were growing up, we were told that like once you lose brain cells, like that's it. You can't regrow new ones. But in certain areas of the brain, like we can regrow brain cells, and like you can reverse damage in certain areas. So uh, there are certain things that will help with the production of BDNF, and CBD is one of those that I've learned. So I mean, it's an anti-inflammatory, which is great for the gut, and it's great for just a ton of different symptoms and issues. I mean, especially in the joints, but then it also helps the brain. So I mean, there's just so many positives going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just always looking at things that help the brain, like creatine. Creatine can help the brain. And that was studied. There's a study, I think, done in like 1993 on that one. So that's one that we've known for a long time. That's probably the safest supplement that anybody could take, as far as like what we know, as far as like research and stuff like that. Do you guys do anything like I mean, you mentioned the essential oils, right? So you like the lavenders and different things like that for
Oh yeah,
sleep. Do
we're
those
we're big
Yes.
oily
do
people.
those help? Yeah.
They
I
do
think so, yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the essential oils for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I got started in the journey of looking into
Just
CBD.
more natural
Yes,
stuff.
I started
Was
out
it?
with essential oils and
Okay.
learning that kind of stuff, and because of essential oils, we got off several medications, and
Yeah.
then I started researching CBD, thinking, well, I mean, that's kind of how it's
Yeah.
progressed and started. I think
Oh, so it started with essential oils
it
for you.
did. Yeah.
Okay. Did what essential oils were you using?
Um. Well, we started out using lavender and
Yeah, just
some
like
different ones to help him sleep,
Uh-huh.
and relax his muscles, and
hmm Were there any
I
that
think
like
frank-
stick out that?
Frankincense is really good
Yes.
for the
Okay,
brain. So
that's a really good one.
I put it, right on the back of his
Okay.
and then
neck
like we had a lot of
there.
acid reflux type stuff, so
Oh,
I worked
yeah.
on different things to help with his stomach and
Yeah.
Fennel and peppermint.
yes, because we were on a lot of acid
Yeah.
reflux medication. We're no longer on that because of essential oils. So
You guys ever
Yeah,
work
that's
in like
awesome.
oregano oil as like a natural
Yes.
I put that in
antibiotic
like in
here and
our
there?
I put that like in our germ blend, like
Yeah.
for the natural hand sanitizer and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I do
but,
that as well. Yeah.
But yeah, we try not to do antibiotics or I mean
Yeah.
we're pretty
yeah,
we're pretty the
never been on
same.
any
Yeah.
other than surgery type stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to keep it pretty natural.
Yeah.
And just let the body work through it the best that it can.
Yeah.
And just, do you guys do like a lot of teas and different
Yeah.
things? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah, man. You talk to people
Yeah,
and
I
like,
can get on a whole another tangent of natural
I'm
stuff.
about it. We can talk about it for real. Like that's what we're here for. Because, well, so many people want to just like brush that off to the side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we have this modern medicine, and I love modern medicine. It
Yeah.
does a lot of great things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
so
husband's
you-
a nurse. And,
Exactly.
he works in the
You know,
hospital.
but,
we,
like, there's-
we need.
Well, that's how I
them
started. I have my
sometimes.
LP. That's how I
Yeah, she's
started
a nurse
out.
too,
So
yeah.
it took me a while to rethink because when you go to nursing school, you're taught, the black and white, the medicine type stuff, and then when he came around, I thought, well, that's not always how things should go. Medicines are not the only route.
Yeah.
So it was a completely mind changing thing to start going in that direction after being in school, learning a different.
Well, I think when you're on this side of it and you see, how much the doctors don't know, it's called practicing medicine for a reason.
Yeah.
They're just trying different things and
They're just people.
they're not the almighty.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just people. And so, yeah, it's definitely given me a different perspective of, definitely don't judge people for, because they do things differently than you.
Right.
So.
Well, you never know until you're in the situation,
Sure.
anyways. Like I don't think people understand until they are put in a position
Yeah,
like this with their children.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just so many things that can be done before resorting to like a prescription or resorting to like surgery in certain cases.
Right.
For sure.
Like, and this is just kind of like even on a larger scale. Like, are we addressing like the things that you're putting in your body? Like, what are you eating? Like, what's your lifestyle? Like, are you reducing stress? Are you getting sleep? Are you like going outside in nature and getting fresh air and getting sunlight and drinking water? Like, are you like doing these things to kind of like help the body? You know what I mean? Before we actually go to these other means, and oftentimes it's
Right.
not the case, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of like natural options. I'm big on grounding. I was always walking around barefoot.
Yeah.
I'm just that
I'm a
guy.
big hippie.
Yeah, oh, ditto.
She got me this shirt that says "Hippie Mama."
I love it. I'm at my kids' soccer games just barefoot. Just, I
Yep.
don't care, man.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
natural. It's where it's
Yep.
at.
Yep.
As much sunlight as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So frankincense is a good one, though, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't experimented with that one yet.
Yeah, that's really good for the brain and pain. You know,
Yeah.
a drop on your tongue. If you take them internally, that's kind of
Yeah.
controversial too. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it just depends on like the quality. Again, it all
Yeah.
goes back
Again,
to
don't get it at
quality,
the
right?
gas station.
Oh my goodness, and that's one of the issues, right? With even with like CBD or
Yes,
anything, right? Like
Yes.
it's not a regulated industry,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So it falls in that supplementation
Mm-hmm.
area to where some people are probably doing this in their bathroom, and then like you got to go to a source that shows
Yeah.
documentation.
Yeah.
Which is why I love that Jumbo company because they do
Yeah.
all of that. But is there a company that you guys prefer for like the oils?
So for essential oils or
Yeah.
CBD,
We can talk. We can talk both. I'll let you guys plug whoever you need to plug, and whoever.
Well,
Yeah.
we both use different. I mean,
Yeah, Young Living and DoTerra are.
doTERRA. Yeah, I
you
use
know,
doTERRA for
yeah,
the essential oils.
I feel like those two, from the research I've done,
Ditto,
you know,
yeah,
just
two we feel comfortable with.
taking them internally and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
I take those internally,
Yeah.
the doTERRA ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. What about?
Definitely not the ones at Walmart.
No, those are trash.
yeah.
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 Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have a buddy who's like he's all about the doTERRA life,
Yeah.
and he's just like, no, people, like it just drives him up a wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's like gonna rip out his dreads and just like go crazy. he's not happy. What about CBD? Like, what do you guys prefer? Did you guys have a source? I mean, there's so many different sources. Do you guys
Sure.
ever try to go to like 2 or 3 so
So-
you're getting different strains?
So for Ayden, we found that has been helpful, just switching it up. Not, one does great for a while, and then the
Right.
benefits kind of, go down. So Noah's Ark Foundation of Missouri in
Okay.
St. Louis or Chesterfield is the dispensary of our choice for the hemp card, getting the CBD through the hemp card.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Because you said there was 2, right?
Yeah.
I remember there was only 2 that was granted like the access to like the license to
yeah.
like grow.
Yeah.
And was there
Yeah.
like
And I hope that
one
they,
in Kansas
you know-
City at that time? Was there 2 in St. Louis and 1 in Kansas City?
No, just the 2 in St.
Oh, okay.
Louis, and so hopefully they'll be, getting awarded some licenses because
I mean, they're already there.
they're already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So CBD, for ordering it online, because there are many good companies that ship. Haley's Hope
That's what we use mostly.
and Mary's Medicinals
Okay.
are 2 really good ones. And then Miriam's Hope, they're out of California.
Okay.
We've used them, and they're really good too.
Nice. Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
And I just tell people, just make sure they come with third-party labs.
Yeah, like do
If
your
they
research.
do your research. If they come with third-party labs, and you can see what's in it, what's not,
Right.
and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just because I mean, the number one question I often get asked when it comes to CBD is, will it make me feel a drug test, or like will it make me get high? Like those are it. Like that's what I'm like.
And I go, maybe, because that's the truth.
Like if we're being honest, like
yeah,
maybe,
if we're
yeah.
being honest, the only CBD that you can take and not, possibly have a positive drug test is an isolate.
Yeah.
And, a CBD isolate. And, those, I guess, have helped some people, but my opinion is we need the terpenes. We need
Right. And that's what we're learning.
need
It's
all
about
of
the
it.
terpene profile, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what's actually helping us.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but I mean, but then again, that goes back to why it's important to have like labs, right? So that way like, all right, well, you can see what percentage of
Right.
what is in what you're getting. You know what I
Right.
mean? And even then,
Yeah.
there's a variance.
Right.
Yeah, nothing's perfect.
Right.
Strange times we're living in, but it's getting better.
Yeah.
It's getting
Yeah,
better.
it is.
So, well, ladies, we're right about an hour. I definitely want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you taking this time and
Yeah,
sitting
no
down with
problem.
me. I know you're nervous today,
Hey,
Laura.
I survived.
You made it. We did it. We're on the other side. Hopefully it wasn't too bad at all for
She's
you.
doing all media now from now on.
Right.
Yeah, where can we get a hold of you for all media requests? But yeah, I just want to turn the floor over to each of you if they're websites, socials, sponsors, or just anything you want to plug or promo or last words.
Yeah, so aydensalliance.org, and it's AYDEN. And you can see their stories. There's a contact us information, just what we're about, what we're trying to accomplish with Ayden's Alliance. So, and then Missouri Cannabis Consultants is who's helped us out. So they're Missouri Cannabis Consultants or it's mocanna.com, I think.
And I'll look them up. I'll put things in the social too. So I'll put the social links for them and Ayden's Alliance. And if you want,
we're on Facebook.
Yeah, I can
just
put your
search
tags
it
on there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I think the one I'd like to throw in there, Families for Hope, is Kids with Holoprosen definitely I'd like to shout out for them too. So you can learn more about his diagnosis because it's a rare thing.
It's very rare. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
How many kids does that affect or people?
Only like 6% make it past birth.
Really?
With this, right? And then once they get to, I think it's maybe I'm totally probably quoting this wrong. I think it's like when they turn 6 months to a year, it's like only like 3%.
Really? So what's, I mean, he's defying all sorts of odds. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit! Like,
right?
It
really
we
is.
say that a lot.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, yeah. Because with what there's literally not hardly any brain up there. I mean, there's not for him to be able to breathe and to function and to smile and I mean, he's not verbal, but he still communicates with us.
But I mean, he's interpreting the world,
right?
100%.
So that's been a great organization for us because we didn't know anything about it, and we've been able to connect with other families who have the same and learn from them as well. So
and that's one of the beautiful things about social media. Like,
that's been so helpful.
There's a lot of negative to it,
sure.
but if you use it correctly, I've just connected with so many amazing humans through that, and and I'll go out and I'll do things like and meet people like you guys at the expo, but then you still follow up online and connect later on too. You know what I mean? So it's not just this shallow interaction. So that's why whenever I went to that, I just wanted to see who I could meet and connect with and follow up with later. I let my buddy Justin do all the little 10-minute interviews because I like this long form. I can sit down and really talk. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really fun. Yeah. Anywhere else? I don't think you plugged any socials. Did you?
A
couple people.
Well, the Families for Hope is like
Families Hope, right? Yeah, that's it.
Facebook.
They're on Facebook,
right?
I think they have a .org or .com. I'm not for sure.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
Did you want to plug your personals? If people wanted to reach out, or I don't know if you didn't. I don't know, man. If you don't want people to get a hold of you, you don't have to. It's totally cool. I just want to give everybody the option.
My Facebook is Ashley Davis Markum.
Okay.
And I'm on Instagram too. So.
What's your Instagram handle?
At Ashley D Markum, I think is what it is.
Okay.
I'm
know.
behind the times. I'm not on Instagram. I'm only on Facebook.
She needs Instagram.
We gotta get you on the gram.
Right? I've not joined the cool kids yet.
It's okay. All right. Well, ladies, again, I thank you, and I appreciate it. So.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody. Until next time.